Hey, music people. Today, I want to talk to you about how to EQ a home studio vocal in 3 easy steps. Let's go. My name is Jeff, and welcome to Ignite Music Project. If you want to learn how to record and mix and all sorts of other music-related stuff, start right now by subscribing, and make sure to click the bell icon so that you don't miss anything. Getting a good sounding vocal is a really important part of the music production process, but recording and producing vocals from a home studio can be problematic. So I want to share with you one phase of getting a great sounding vocal, and that is how to EQ your vocals. I want to share with you my simple 3-step process that I go through every time I begin to EQ a vocal, and I hope that it'll help you and give you some principles and some ideas that you can use when it's time to EQ your lead vocals. So my 3-step process is: step 1, filter; step 2, locate and eliminate; and step 3, add and enhance. Let's jump into a session and show you what each of these steps look like when you're EQing a vocal. So I have a vocal session here. This is a cover of the song Lullaby My Love. And if you're familiar with this song, it's a very soft, very intimate sounding song, and the lead vocal is very breathy, and it's a very soft lead vocal. It's a beautiful tenor voice that I've recorded here. So let's listen to the vocal dry and see what we've got so far.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies.
Okay, not bad, right? Not bad at all. This was recorded in my home studio, my project studio. And I've done some things in the room to help minimize reflections or the sound bouncing back into the microphone. But you could still hear a little bit of the room, right? So it's not perfect. And there are some other issues that my 3-step process will address. So let's start with step 1, filter. Most EQs will have a set of filters that you can use to cut out or eliminate portions of the frequency spectrum. And particularly with vocals, we want to take a look at the low cut or high pass filter. They're the same thing, just different names. But what this will do is help us remove a lot of the lower frequency information that we simply don't need for a vocal. I don't know about you guys, but my home studio, it was not designed to be a professional recording space. In fact, it's really just a bedroom. But I've turned it into a home studio, and I've spent a lot of time helping it sound the best it can, but there's still some issues when recording, particularly vocals, in my room. One problem that we face as home studio owners is low-end rumble or low-frequency information that we simply can't eliminate. We might have an air conditioner running. We might have a heater running. We might have to be close to a window that's close to a busy street where we might get some low rumble from the cars driving by. And though we can't fully eliminate those sounds when we record, a filter can help take away some of that low frequency rumble and that low frequency information that we don't need. So let's take a look on how we can filter some of that out. I've got the stock EQ here in Logic, and to engage the high pass filter, you just click this little button up here. And this process is pretty simple. It's as simple as dragging the filter further up the frequency spectrum until we start to hear the low end of the vocal disappear. We know at that point that we've gone too far, and we can start to back it off until we get it to a point where it's eliminating most of the lower frequencies without actually affecting the vocal in a negative way. So I'm going to play it back, and we're going to adjust this filter and see what we can come up with.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string circling.
Okay, I've found that right around 100 hertz is usually the sweet spot for setting up a high pass or low cut filter. Most vocals don't need any of that information below 100 hertz. It's not fundamental to the sound and it's not important. So why not eliminate it and help clean up the overall sound and focus the overall sound of our vocal tracks. Step number 2, locate and eliminate. And this is probably the most important step when dealing with vocals that were recorded in a not so ideal location. When recording in a room that hasn't been designed or professionally treated to evenly distribute frequencies across the frequency spectrum, we can get frequency buildup or frequency nodes that happen in a room, just that naturally occur. As sound is being reproduced, there's certain frequencies that will reflect more or be exaggerated more, and that in turn will be recorded into the vocal take. And so in order to find those frequencies and eliminate them or take them out, we are going to use individual frequency bands and over-exaggerate those frequencies until we can find those that are really standing out. So to do that, we're going to start with an individual frequency band. We're going to set the Q to about 8, something that's not too wide or not too narrow, and we're going to boost that frequency band by about 18 dB. And at that point, we're going to sweep it or move it up and down the frequency spectrum until we hear something that sounds awful. Let's give this a shot with this first band here.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string circling.
Wow, there it is right there. It almost sounds like feedback from an on-stage monitor, a frequency that is just resonating and building up and building up. And so we know that we don't want that in our vocal recording. So I'm going to go ahead and notch that out. And I would suggest to you doing this in 3 dB increments. This is the way I've worked, and I found that it's really effective. I start by taking out 3 dB, and after listening to it some more, if I find that that bad frequency isn't gone yet, I can take away another 3 dB. This just makes sure that I'm not cutting out more of the frequency range that I need to. And let's move on and find some more horrible sounding frequencies.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies.
There's another one right around there that's starting to sound pretty boxy and pretty bad. So let's take a 3 dB away as well. Let's keep going.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string circling.
There's some frequencies that are building up on circling at the end of that phrase. It really started to sound pretty nasty. So let's take some of that out. Let's do one more.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string circling.
That's pretty interesting. On that same part of the vocal, circling, there was almost a higher frequency that was also resonating. Sounds pretty bad. So let's take the 3 dB out there as well. Now, you may have to use another EQ in order to make sure that you're addressing or dealing with all of these frequency nodes, depending on your room. At this point, we would want to go back and listen to the vocal again and make sure that those nasty frequencies are removed. We might need to take another 3 dB away here, maybe adjust the Q a little bit wider to include more of the frequencies, maybe make it a little narrower, just so that we're only addressing the frequencies that we need to. That takes us to step number 3, add and enhance. This is the part where we try to bring out the best of the vocal performance. Now, if you notice, these first 2 steps were actually done in isolation. We soloed the vocal. But for the first 2 steps, it really doesn't matter what it sounds like with the rest of the mix because we are just trying to address the problems of the room. But now we want to help this vocal sound a little bit better. And we'll want to do this in context with the whole mix. But in order to save a little time, I will give you one way that I've found to help enhance my vocal recordings that have been recorded in my home studio. I often find that the vocals I record sound a little flat. They sound a little dull. And so to help brighten them up a little bit, add maybe a little bit more air, a little bit more sparkle to that vocal track, I use a shelf or a frequency band that will raise a range of frequencies that sounds a little bit more natural. And so I found right around 7K is a sweet spot for the vocals recorded in my studio. And I only like to add maybe 1, 2, or 3 dB so that I'm making an EQ move that will sound natural and not too overhyped or harsh. So let's add 3 dB here. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string.
Now this is pretty subtle, so you might not be able to tell a huge difference unless you're listening on really good headphones or really good monitor speakers. But when the EQ was engaged, I noticed that the vocal cleaned up a little bit, right? It sounded a little bit more focused. It sounded a little bit more interesting to my ears. Now, these are all pretty subtle moves, and after listening again, I would want to go back to a lot of these frequencies in the middle and mess with those a little more, remove a little bit more, maybe adjust the Q a little bit wider to make sure that the sound, those resonant sounds are removed from the vocal recording. So let's take a listen to this vocal placed in the mix with some reverb and see what we got.
Baby, close your eyes under painted skies. Angels on a string circling.
All right, we are well on our way to getting a great vocal sound. The floor is now open to you, my music friends. How do you approach EQing a lead vocal for your tracks? What are some things that you have found to be helpful when EQing vocals recorded in your home studio? Let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you guys have found to work. If you found this video to be helpful, go ahead and give it a like and share it with a music friend or somebody who's interested in making music in their home studio. Invite them to join our community and let's help each other make great music from our home or bedroom studios. Until next time, guys, my name is Jeff. See ya.